anywhere. It has no sense of direction, no timing of where it's going and when it will get there or whatever. Leadership begins as a personal thing. The reason why we have a society that is getting messed up with so many things happening and we're seeing corruption happening is because leadership is failing from a personal level. You are.
He was talking about the under-16 tournament that you guys played in, obviously coming off a loss to Mali, then rallying up and going for the later stages. If you're to compare, Ugandan basketball with, let's say, basketball from Egypt, basketball from Mali, where would you rate Uganda?
Compared to Mali and Egypt, I think we're not at their level yet, but I know we can be because their preparation is very thorough and they really do invest in the youth basketball and take their time to nurture the teams that are coming for the tournaments. So in that area we're lacking because we have the talent, but the preparation for the tournaments is what needs to be worked on.
So we basically have the skill and the talent.
Yeah.
We just need to prepare better. Interesting.
How did you, as a child, if you visibly remember, what did you want to be in life?
Well, if I go back, I think I looked at two things as a child. I thought about, I looked up to the skies and I'd see the stars and, see the airplanes flying over. And as I was there, with my dad, looking after the cows, or with my grandma going fishing, or with my grandpa farming, I'd look up and go, wow, what are those things up there? And then someone told me, that's a space station. I go, okay, interesting. And what else is up there? Well, those are stars and those are airplanes. I thought, well, it would be great, to figure out how those things work. Yeah. And so I guess that was one interesting, passion of mine as a little kid, figuring out how aerospace vehicles work. And I guess that wasn't, something which excited me a lot.
Wow. You said the two things. So how did you end up there? You were fishing with your grandmother, you mentioned, and farming with your father, and grazing with your grandfather. Why were you not able to pick one of these from these, three different distinct people, and then you ended up in the things that are up in the sky with all this interest? What was the motivation like? Was somebody an aerospace engineer? Was somebody thinking about the things up, or it just came to you?
It's, back then, we didn't have Wi-Fi. We didn't have mobile phones. We didn't even have phones, or television. We just had nature, and that was great, And we had stories around the campfire, around the hearth every evening. We'd sit down and talk to each other. We lived quite close to national parks, so every now and again a lion would hop over and grab a cow and go and have supper as well. So we shared with the lion. So it was being at one with nature. But what was important in all that was allowing one's mind to imagine, allowing one's mind to run, to fly, to really go as far as one's mind could possibly go. Yeah. And if I think of looking at things from the space going down, I could still look down and figure out what's going on, on the fishing side. I could look at what's going on the farming side. I could look at what's going on the grazing side, because when you're up there, you can see everything. Yeah. But it also helps you appreciate how special the earth is. Yeah. And yeah, so that's I'm most grateful for that natural environment that any kid in a rural village in Uganda or any other part of Africa right now has, that where you see every star, and I believe there is something special about that.
You see, it's like a ship. You just talked about a ship. A ship without a compass in an ocean or in a lake will go anywhere. It has no sense of direction, no timing of where it's going and when it will get there or whatever. Leadership begins as a personal thing. The reason why we have a society that is getting messed up with so many things happening and we're seeing corruption happening is because leadership is failing from a personal level. You are corrupt as an individual and you pride in it because you're gaining more. You go home, your children are seeing that and thinking that is the way of life. Community and society is saying, this guy is a good guy, he's a rich guy, he's the man of society. And society is now beginning to agree to that being a norm. That's not where the problem starts. So let's just go back to your question. Leadership begins from your personal compass, your true north. Why are you on earth? What's your purpose? When you walk out of here, how do you impact on people? Or how do you want people to remember you? You know, nowadays people are dying, and all people can say is, you know, we had a good time with that guy, but beyond that, what next? And then you find the same people coming to bury you, then after that they even actually have a drink up after that, and life goes on. You'll never be remembered. But just think about this, and let me just give you a simple example of Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa was a 4-foot lady, very short lady. She was a teacher. You know, people think teachers have no impact. She was a teacher. On her way to school to teach, she was so disturbed by the number of young children who were hungry on the streets, having no sense of direction. One day, she just woke up, went to the principal and said, you know what? Kalas, I'm done. I am going to feed the children of the world. The principal laughed. He said, you small woman, first of all, what money do you have? You think feeding the world is? But when you think of Mother Teresa today, what do you think of? The woman who tried to feed the world. Her mission still exists way beyond her. Going back to the same principle of people. People and purpose. And you see, purpose cannot be from outside or without. You know, you don't tell me that this is your purpose, Otoa. No, it comes from within. And you know, leaders are very crazy people. Yeah? You know, it's the same Museveni who read a newspaper and he got pissed off and went and, you know, on the streets and went and joined the bush. Yeah. They talk about people like Fidel Castro and all these people who... Leaders are people who just get angry with what is happening and make a commitment to make a difference.
Welcome to the CEO Bench. My name is Eddie Okila, and of course, coming back from the holiday break, how are you guys doing? How is everyone doing? Is your CEO back in office? They're supposed to be back on the 15th of January or around about the end of January, okay? And of course, we took a break with them for the Easter, rather the Christmas holidays and the happy holidays. Everyone welcoming you all the way from the 2021, the year that was very tough, to the new year 2022. My guest returning on the show today for the very first time 2022 is the man who has been around the e-commerce, you know, and of course, you know, computer science and technology and all these things we talk about. He's been in that space for some time. He's a man known to many of you across. He's the representative or the team leader for Flutterwave Inc. in East Africa. Nielsen,
yes.
Welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
yes,
much.
I'd even forgotten to pronounce your name.
You are too busy.
Yes.
Too ambitious.
No, because I'm trying to look for the name. That's how far and how long it has been. Yes.
I know. Happy to be here.
Happy to see you
It's
too.
been a long time coming, but
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of you know, requests to bring the young CEO on the show, and we said yes. We will definitely look for him, and I think at the time when the nominations came, we were going for holidays.
Right.
And we decided we'll wait for the holiday to end and then bring you on.
Awesome.
Well, we're happy to have you here. How's the family? How's work and everybody else?
Awesome.
Great.
Yes.
We're going to dive into our interview very quickly. The CEO Bench is a program that focuses on young leaders or old leaders or people who are in the position of leadership or climbing into position of leadership. We want to share the nuggets of truth about the journey of self-leadership into that position or into that space.
Right.
And you know, how has it been? Has it been easy? I mean, people just see sometimes CEOs on the streets and you know, on television or wherever they have been, and they think that it's easier to get there.
Right.
But some of them are going by the baptism of fire. We think that you are not different from them, that there could be some really serious fire going on in your life. And we want to share it out. So we'll start from a lighter note by just getting to know you. So who is Nelson Msango? Are you Ugandan? If yes, what are the values that define you as Ugandan? Yes, and how did you end up in this space?
So my name is Neil Msango. Ugandan, pure Ugandan, 100% Ugandan. You know, born and bred in this country, but with a passion for technology. Of course, the first core value for me is fear of God. You know, I really love God, and everything I do, He has to manifest. And because of God, it's excellence. You know, and that's how, you know, in everything I do, I really try to give it my very best. I believe, you know, that everyone is built with some, you know, something inside of them that they can, you know, refine and bring out to the very best. And so, you know, that was my journey. Fell in love with technology at a young age. Was blessed to have parents, Ugandan parents, who allowed me to explore that journey. Very important, you know. So my mother, you know, allowed me really to explore my passion. And, you know, I just dived in. And when I was diving in on that journey, I realized that, you know, there is no one who has gone. Few guys have gone before us. And so it called us for a trailblazer, someone to go and make a path where there has been no path. And, you know, throughout that entire time, learning of how I can make myself better, because it's important. Every year, you know, when the year is beginning, people make resolutions. And normally it's, you know, it's regarding other people, they are competing. But myself, it's every year, how do I become better? How do I become better? And never ever set out to actually be a leader, but leaders, you know. For me, I like saying that cometh the hour, cometh the man. Right? In a space where, you know, no one is taking that step to go ahead. You know, and you're willing to dive into that kind of, you know, self-education. Then, you know, I end up becoming, whenever I'd be in a circle, I'd be, you know, elected and chosen to lead. And when you know, when you're leading people, you have to know. So there's automatically sitting on a hot seat. And so just went on that journey of learning beyond technical skills, just learning how to lead people, how to manage people, how to, you know, how to strategize, how to, you know, how to get a vision, how to, you know, look forward beyond just look beyond yourself as a leader. And, you know, throughout that journey, reached where I am today. Quite interesting.
Well, I want to take a moment to welcome you guys to the show. We're live on Twitter, on Facebook, and YouTube. You can go there, share far and wide, and be part of this conversation. I promise you this is going to be a good ride for you. And, of course, if you have a neighbor who is interested in growing in the technology space to, you know, become like Neil Msango, that's a place for you to be right now. Neil?
Yes.
Well, let's start from that point. You've talked about leadership,
and
I want to just know from you, what is your understanding of leadership?
Right, it's an interesting question, right? And like I said, I think I made something, subtle hint that, you know, I always believed initially when I was growing up that leaders were born. Now, I believe that people are born with some qualities of leadership, but leaders are actually, you know, they're made. You know, and so leadership for me is being able to take that step, right? To go to a place where people have not been, so that you can go there, learn, come back, and then take people there. So, you know, that means that to be a leader, you must have people who are following you. So you can't lead. You know what I'm saying? Some of the things that I've learned recently, you know, over the years, really noticing is that, you know, for you to be a leader, people must be following you. You know, and so leader for me is going to a place and then learning how to get there and then coming and taking people along that journey to that place. But then the thing is that as you go to that place and take people there, when people are, you must be able to continue to go to another place. So it's developing yourself to learn to see those places, go to those places, and then take people to those places.
Okay.
And then becoming as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So you must be following someone, and you must have people who are following you as well. Yeah.
Wow. And that's a very interesting perspective right there, Neil. We are looking at today on the show with you. We're definitely going to be looking at the leaders' transformative leadership approach.
Right.
And of course, we're looking at the leadership abilities, which are often what we look for to determine the level of effectiveness of a leader.
Right.
What is your level of effectiveness? Is it correlated to your leadership abilities?
Right.
I mean, if you don't have a certain ability, then you can't lead self.
Right.
So on that note, are you a leader?
I am. 100%.
Yes. And what kind of a leader do you think you are?
And this is a question that has been going through my mind in the past years, because you get to a level, and I know Eddie because we're personal friends. I know that you've been in that space and we've had these conversations. But throughout life, you get to a level where it stops becoming about you.
Okay.
Right. And at that level is then when many people realize that, and some don't. And the thing is, when you reach that level where it stops becoming about you, the purpose of what you're doing grows beyond self. Right. And that's the point where now innately you're built to be in that place of leadership. Now, the thing which also is clear to me as I tell you what kind of leader I am is, for me, the key thing for me in everything I do in my leadership is the people I lead. And so I like to refer to myself as an empathetic leader.
Okay.
So it's, again, understanding.
Empathetic leader.
Yes. It's understanding the kind of people I am leading, whatever space, seeing how I can bring value to them, and then picking from them what I can learn for myself, and then using those learnings to help them go on that journey to go to the place where we're going.
Well, again, we're talking to Neil Simsango, and of course, our topic of discussion today, we're going to be looking into the leadership, transformative leadership in the e-commerce space in Uganda and across East Africa. He is the lead for Flutterwave Inc. in East Africa, and of course, Flutterwave is an e-commerce platform that allows business to trade and to transact and to transfer payment from one end to the next end. If you're in goods and services or in trade, that's the place to be. And talking of that, Neil, you have defined leadership and you've talked about what leadership is to you and the type of leader you are. Yeah. What is self-leadership to you? A lot of us out there don't know what self-leadership is. You ask the person, says, I don't know how to lead myself to get myself to this point. What is self-leadership to you? And how can you actually, define it for somebody who doesn't know, given the fact that you have been walking this journey to where we are now?
Right. And I think that's a key question, right? Which many leaders don't ever ask themselves, right? Because sometimes people end up being in places of leadership positions, but they're actually not leaders.
True.
And for me, what I believe is that to lead others to a place where you want them to be, you must have gone there yourself. And so self-leadership for me becomes then what does it take for you as an individual to get to the place where you want to be, and those things, it's a big part of it is reflection, knowing thyself, right? I think that was in the Art of War. You have to know thyself, right? And so it's to look at yourself from end to end, A to Z, and figuring out who am I, what am I good at, extremely good at, what am I not good at, what do I need to do to make sure that the things I'm good at I become even better, and the things that I'm not good at, what do I need to do today to make sure that I become better at those things? Who do I need around me? Who do I need to? Where do I need to move from in terms of spaces and circles? Who are the people who have the qualities that I want to have? How do I go to connect and interface with those people? And that's a big part of it is being mentored, right? And so it's just knowing exactly where you are, being self-aware really of where you are at any given point in time, and then doing the things. Because it's one thing to know, and I tell you, it's
a thing to do.
Yes, I tell you're telling some a couple of young people who are a leader, over the weekend that look, it's one thing to know what to do. That's the first step. The biggest thing is then to do what you know how to do.
Wow. That's a big challenge right there, which many of us struggle with. Neil, I want to take you a little bit just back,
right?
To as a child,
right?
How did you end up in ICT,
right.
and was any of your parents into this space,
right.
or an uncle, somebody will always say, where did you pick your inspiration from? And going through school and getting to this, did you always see that this is where I'm going to end up?
Right.
Yeah, we just want to know that bit because it connects to self-leadership that we're
Right,
talking about.
right,
I mean,
right,
if you're able to pick yourself from point A to point B,
right.
chances are we're going to find you in point Y,
yeah.
At the later stage in life.
Yeah.
And that is because there's been certain level of motivation towards that. Would you share that?
Yeah. So, growing up, I'm a middle child, so number 2 of 3. And I believe greatly that also, harnessed my skills of being a leader, because then over the time the middle child is forgotten. So there's the firstborn who is the firstborn, then there's the baby who's the baby, then there's the middle child. But also because of that, you're able to be a mediator, because the firstborn is the leader who is born leadership, and the baby is fighting for that power. And so you have to learn to manage people. But going to the ICT question, I remember my father, he came back from one of his trips with a computer, desktop computer, and with a couple of books, but no one knew how to use it. Not himself, not the people at his office. And so I just began to pick up those books. My dream initially was to be a pilot. And it's just that
we share the dream, though.
That's good. No doubt you have.
We share the dream, and I still want to become one.
Same to me, And yesterday, when we have a mastermind we're doing, faith-driven entrepreneurship, and I was sharing, look, that I still have to fly a plane. It's only because during our days, Eddie, it was hard to get a scholarship to go to flying school, and so my dream, then began to transform into technology. I got that computer, immersed myself in that computer. Again, realizing early that, because no one knew how to work that computer, if I knew how to work that computer, I'd be ahead. And so then my hours were spent at that machine, learning, and then coming back to teach people. And I think, looking back now, it's those things of being, having the first movers advantage that began to show me that, look, in life, if you're able to take a step ahead of where everyone is thinking, you will be ahead. And once you're ahead, then people have to ask you how you did it. And then you have to now learn how to teach people how you did it, right? And then I began to, I remember, just looking at material around, what does it take to be a president? What does it take to be a CEO of a company? What do you need to know? Because at some point, there's a point where I knew technical skill. And then I just hated people. And it's a common thing in my field, right? That many techies, right? They just don't know how to deal with human beings. And so I realized, look, if I can figure out how to deal with human beings and computers, I will definitely be able to lead this bunch of geeks.
And that's a very complex situation right there you talked about, because many people in the tech space usually lock themselves off from so many other people. You call them, they say, I prefer text messages rather than the phone call, because they don't want to talk to people. They don't want to interact. So to see you move from that space to a space of leading people and becoming the lead for East Africa, that's 5 countries that you're moving into. I mean, it's not something that one would take it for granted. I mean, would want to learn from you. How was this man able to move out? We've brought tech people here on the program, and I think only you and Elijah Chitaka has been able to express yourself beyond, the talk. And of course, Adrian Kamoga was here as well, to be able to. So there are very few people who have been able to push themselves out of that comfort zone of tech. That said, Neil, a very fascinating journey. First of all, learning your father's computer and be able to teach everyone in the house. I can imagine you became a superstar and you took over some people's position in the family. Before we take a break, I want to ask you a question on the one thing. We look at the deliberate identification and implementation of necessary changes within self. What is your understanding of change management?
Man, this topic has become so important in the world, right? In the past years, as you can imagine, because of, again, the pandemic, right? And, for me, change management is just being able, right? So, first of all, the first thing we must understand about this is that change is a fact of life. Now, whether it happens fast or slow, these are just variables, but we must always be changing. And as a leader or as a member of an organization, you have to understand that this is going to happen at some point. So as someone who's in an organization, you have to know that, look, change is coming at some point, whether sooner or later. As a leader, you then have the added responsibility of being responsible for that change. And I think that is the place where everything, where the sleepless nights you're talking about,
yes,
where the fire brigade has to come in for the leaders, because then this now becomes a process of controlling, of managing, of being in charge of transitions and changes and moving parts in an organization. And in the pandemic, this has gone from like 15% to 20% of the time of the leaders' work to like 70-80%, because everything has come down to how you organize the dice, how you stack the bricks as a leader. And so for me, this has been also a key thing, in organization. Even the other things that I'm able, blessed to serve at, like I serve a church, I serve in various businesses as an advisor and a partner, and I've seen that the companies, the firms, organizations that stood above the rest in the pandemic was because of how they handled change management. And I think for me, it's a good thing we're talking about. These are rarely spoken about topics, and and no doubt you're the one who's bringing this kind of conversation as the CEO.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back from that, Neil, we're going to be talking to Neil about change management. Change management, we are referring to change as an individual. Was he employed? How was he able to move from his first employment, if at all, to the next? That management of change is quite very important, so many people don't take it seriously. There are people who are stuck in jobs and can't move, don't know what to do, and not aware of the steps that they need to take to move forward, because they've not been able to take themselves forward. Like you said, if you're able to push yourself a little bit, you're definitely going to be able to find that the challenges ahead of you, you're able to manage. So we'll dive into it a little bit when we come back from the break. You who is watching the show, we want you to send us your kisses and disses. I've seen some comments already coming from all across. We're definitely going to be sharing it here. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, the CEO bench will continue with Neil himself. What is your understanding of leadership?
Leadership for me means you're being able to immerse yourself and get your team, not staff. I've learned that's a very different, they're both different terms, and I'll tell you why. When you immerse yourself as a leader, you're willing to sort of get in the trench with your team and get them to buy the vision behind the structure you set up or the business you set up. I think then you've achieved, or you are on your way to achieving what it is you want to do with the type of business you have. The reason why I said there's a difference between staff and team is your staff is a body there, do this, do that, and they'll just follow and clock out. But your team will understand the vision and actually run with it. perhaps even run with it better than you yourself envisioned.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Linda, on that note, are you a leader? Do you consider yourself a leader?
I think I'm learning how to, and I'll say I'm working on my impatience. I've been giving feedback about my impatience and that, and impatience in the sense that I know what it is I want. Perhaps we've all discussed it, and if it doesn't happen within Linda's 2 minutes, then I sort of take it away from you and try to do it myself. So I'm trying to pace myself and understand or allow others to move forward and do that. Yeah.
Welcome back from that break. The CEO bench is here, and we're talking to the CEO of, or rather the team leader of Flutterwave Inc. in East Africa. Nelson, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much.
Pastor Mugabe says every time we do this, we have to spread love.
Oh.
So you have to spread love.
Love it, love it.
It was brought, during the COVID situation, the pandemic, and he says, the world is so stressed, so you need to spread love to the world. Yes. So you have to, wherever you bongo at somebody, you have to spread love to them. Yes. But welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much.
Neil, we're talking about change management.
Right.
A lot of us don't know that managing change is quite key to our next step of growth in life.
Yeah.
I want to just take you to that moment. Have you been employed before?
Yes.
And if yes, how were you able to move from one job to the next? How were you able to communicate that? By change management, we're looking at the deliberate identification and implementation of necessary change in a human being. Yes.
Yeah.
You have to be deliberate about this.
Love it.
What is the necessary change that I need to make?
Yeah.
How do you know that I've reached that point that I need to move to the next step?
Right.
Some people are just stuck there. I
Yeah.
need money for school fees,
Yeah.
rent, and this
Yeah.
this job gives me this, but they're dying.
Yeah.
And the gifting and the talent God has put in them cannot be realized.
Yeah.
How were you able to manage?
I mean, I like the definition you used, because
yeah.
two words stand out for me: deliberate
Identification.
and necessary.
Yes.
Now, the thing which I've observed, across organizations, across even my own life, my friends, is the first thing is fear, right? The second thing is people don't even know. They're not aware of self.
Yeah.
So, I've been employed, of course, coming out of the university, got my first job at an IT firm, and I quickly realized that, it's easy to get comfortable at that firm.
Yeah.
Because I knew exactly what to do. Reached a point where I knew exactly what to do and how to do it. And I was at the top in that firm.
Yeah.
And so my own goal then comes out now self-awareness.
Yes.
And what your own dream and purpose
Wow,
is.
that's self-awareness and personal development is key. Yes.
It's key.
Yeah.
So, I set out, if you don't know where you want to be in 5 years, then you cannot make any necessary changes.
Yeah.
So, my goal was always to be, a business owner. Yeah. I knew that from the get-go that, I'm built out to have my own establishment, my own business, but I knew I had to have the necessary skills. Yeah. And so if I was in a place and I served there faithfully, reached a point where I couldn't add any value to that place and the place couldn't add value to me, I knew it was time to move on. So my first job, was an amazing boss of mine, an IT expert. Reached a point where, we were doing IT service management across the town. And the problems became the same. So there was no new challenge for me.
Wow.
And I knew that if I stay in that place, I'll be happy, have the pay I want. But again, there's no new challenge for me. Could not get me to a place where I wanted to be. Because I wanted to be like him, but then he could only allow me to do a certain work at some level. And so, I began then looking aggressively for another place to be. And so at that time, it was choosing where to go to do a master's, and that's another thing about it, is knowing where you want to be also helps you make those choices.
Yes.
Because between a master's degree, which is amazing, and professional courses like MCSE and all these kind of things, plus another different job.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I chose to go and do professional courses. Because again, the kind of company I wanted to establish was going to be a consultancy firm.
Yes.
And so I thought, if I go do a master's now in IT, I won't be a specialist in any kind of software.
Yeah.
And so I went to do a professional course. And so that was easy for me to decide as well because I knew exactly where I wanted to go. Yeah. But again, I moved away from the place of fear of security. So I knew, look, if I put in this time to go do these courses a year or so, I cannot fail, first of all, to find something to eat in that time. But then the second thing is that once I'm done with those courses, I'll be of much more value. And so it was I had to then now come and down and say, look, who are the stakeholders in this change? Of course, luckily at that time I was a single man. So, it was just me, my blanket. My parents had to pay for the fees. So I had to go and now, again, present that idea to my parents and tell them the vision. And then come back and also convince myself, because the biggest doubter always is yourself. And so, and in true fashion, when I went to do those courses, the place where I did them from retained me as an instructor there. And so, for me, I think the key thing is the necessary changes. How do you know the necessary changes that need to happen in your personal life? It's where do you want to go? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What do you want to do and leave a mark for in this world? Maybe you want to be the best executive. And so that kind of person, you can't be, taking very audacious risk. It's getting your professional level up to that level. What do you need to learn? What do you need to be? Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur. What does that mean for you, in terms of advancing? And so knowing where you want to go is really key. And then coming back down then to then take the steps, right? There's always people who have gone before us. They're always there. How can you monitor these people? Look at the patterns. If you are into the media space, why can't you come to House of Talent, and say, look, I know Eddie has been there. I want to do something close to his, but I want to veer off, but it will be imperative for me to learn what he has put in. And then, taking those steps eventually.
Wow. I mean, you talk about something very important, Neil. I mean, you talked about the very striking point there is that I reached a point where the organization wasn't adding anything to me, value, and I wasn't adding value to the organization. It's the biggest problem, people out there. The biggest problem for people out there to realize that I'm no longer adding value to the organization, and the organization is not adding value to me. Therefore, I need to move to the next place where I can add value. Many of us have failed in our positions, in our jobs, in our lives to actually get to that point. Neil, how do you get to that point, or how did you get to that point? What nuggets of truth that can you share with somebody out there who is watching you right now and wondering, okay, it sounds really cool, but I don't know how to start.
I know. So the first thing is really, truth. Be true to self. I default back to that many times. When you're sitting in your moment of work, and 8 to 5, how difficult is it for you to accomplish a given task? Personally, I like to set out what I'm going to do in a day. And if those things are easy for me, if I'm not being challenged, then I have to sit back. So either I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or it's too easy for me. So I do it really quickly. And so the first thing is, how do you know that you've reached that point where you're not adding any value? What is the vision of the organization? Why do they want to be? In that firm, like I told you, the vision of my employer then was to just have people who are fresh out of campus, pay them a bare minimum to service his clients. Now, in my interaction with my line manager, who was he, I realized, look, his goal does not go beyond that. Now, the power I had at that time cannot push me beyond his aspiration. So I knew from the organization side, I've reached my limit. Then from my personal side is, okay, am I then comfortable to live within the within the limits of that dream? And I wasn't comfortable doing that, And so people also find it, and it's African really. It's a very bad tradition that we have here of people rarely engage line managers to see what is the vision of this organization. Where is the CEO? Where is my leader taking me? What does he want to? I mean, we follow Jesus Christ. He has really shown us the entire roadmap of what is the goal of our followership, right? And it's aligning with that vision, and then saying, okay, I'm in this organization. This is the structure. This is the dream. Maybe I'm an intern, and the way the structure is laid out is that from internship, you become, associate, senior associate, become a partner, become a, whatever.
There's a growth pattern is set out for you.
If you're in a firm where that is, brilliant, set out, that's the first good sign. But if that firm now, I was in another job again, had that structure, But that structure was for architects.
Okay.
Right, and I was the IT person. Right, and so as an IT person, this is still the limit for me.
Yeah.
Right, I can't learn anything new.
Yeah.
I can't, because of my limitation to learn.
Yes.
I can't then give a better service.
Yes.
And again, the work I'm doing is valued up to some point. And so it's, you know, looking up at the organization, at their vision, their dream, their structure. Is it in line with what your own aspiration is? Yes. And if no, then again, one of the indicators. Wow. And if yes, then how then are you aligned to go through that structure? Yeah. How much time are you giving yourself? What does your roadmap look like? Yeah. Do you want to do it in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? And is that process a process you're willing to go through in that company? Wow. And if that doesn't align as well, then another indicator.
Wow. Thank you so much, Neil. Well, I told you this is going to be some real fire in the house today. As a young man who is on a roll, and some of the things that he's talking about, you too can do it, you too can make it, if you're really, really willing to go there. I mean, Neil just talked about some of these things. I want to put the topic of the discussion up there, and I have some questions already coming up from you guys. Some people are really interesting question there. We are talking about, leadership, change management, and transformation. Leadership, change management, and transformation. Leadership, we want to know, do you have self-leadership? What's your understanding of leadership? I mean, it's not far-fetched for everyone to get it right, right? And then change is an aspect of, like Neil says, you either do it now. If it's delayed, it's coming. If it comes and finds you when you're not ready, you're definitely going to crash. And transformation is about the ability of a person to think beyond a certain degree. You've heard it from Neil. And Neil, I want to go back to that point. When you talk about, two organizations,
right, distinct,
experiences. Yeah. One, you're an IT, but the growth pattern there is for people who are architects. You is in information technology. Basically, you are supposed to make these guys go there.
Yes.
There's no room for you to go. And in the first organization, you engage your line manager openly and ask for what is the direction that the company is taking.
Right.
Many of us are afraid to talk to our leaders.
Right.
And I have not found young people in my earlier time in my job, and that's how I was launched into leadership. Of course, I come from a leadership family where everything was about leadership from beginning. So we often joke about, we says we were born leaders. We don't know how we ended up there, but we're always there.
Yeah.
And for me, I one time asked my boss when I was employed, what is the vision of the company? And we're in a meeting and everyone says, oh my God, how can you even ask the boss this question?
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Right.
You're always trying to be ahead of people. You're going to be fired.
Right.
So when we took a tea break, everybody thought I was going to be fired. But what was very fascinating for me was my boss at the time, a Kenyan man, decided to use me an example. He says, no one has ever challenged me like this young man.
Right.
And yet he's the last person to have come and joined the team.
Yeah.
And the way I joined the team, I joined as a cleaner.
Wow.
So there I was asking questions at some point as a salesperson.
Right.
I mean, I'm just a salesperson, but I'm asking questions.
Right.
That began to open my mind. And so he sat me down and says, never be afraid to ask questions, because then when you ask questions, sometimes your questions are good for me to rethink about where we're going.
Exactly.
Maybe you have seen something I've not seen.
Exactly.
But my colleagues thought that I was going to be fired. And it was a big problem. And then all the times I wanted to engage my boss to just say, where are we going? What are we doing? How do we get there? What are we doing that needs to get us there?
Yeah.
And we've seen it from you. I just have a question here, Neil. And the first question that's come from you is a bank teller, meanwhile. And she's saying, my name is Vivian. Educator, thank you very much for the CEO bench. The moment I saw your post, I had to find a way of watching this program. I've been in the banking sector for some time.
Yeah.
And what Nielsen just talked about right now has made me shed tears. I've been looking for somebody to give me a way forward. I feel like I've reached the top, and in the banking sector, there is no room for a bank teller to grow. I'm a senior bank teller.
Right.
That's all I have.
Right.
And there's a branch manager already there. The branch manager has nowhere to go. So the bank has very strict and not very many room for growth. What should I do? I'm just tearing up right now because I feel like I'm cut out for more, but I don't know what to do. And yet I fear to leave my job because I may not be able to get another one tomorrow.
Right.
Yes. I think you can see the predicament we've been talking about in change management.
Yeah.
What would be your best advice to Vivian?
I mean, the first thing is, the minute you feel it, right, it means there's something more in you already, right? That's a first sign. I always tell, all the people who I lead with, serve with, that the thing that makes you uncomfortable is probably because that's part of your purpose. Okay. So Vivian, of course, you're cut out for more, definitely. That's discomfort you're feeling. I had another word which always goes against change is fear. Yes. Right? You have to come against fear. Yeah. You have to do it afraid. And that's a thing which I learned over the years, that everything I've done in my life, I've been afraid. But I've learned to minimize fear to a point where it has no effect on me. Okay. So, you are a senior bank teller, you've realized that, you're afraid that you won't get another job. That's a fallacy. You will get millions of jobs. The key thing is, what kind of skill do you now have to add to yourself? What kind of value? So where do you want to end up? What do you want to do? Again, the thing also which makes many people disturbed and scared of change is they put unrealistic expectations on themselves. So the thing I want to tell you now is, if it took you 5 years, right, to change your life forever, would it be worth it? My guess is yes. Yes. If in 5 years, Vivian, you could be, the CEO, or you could be a business owner, or if you could be, whatever, you're an auditor, or whatever it is, would it be worth it? Yes. And here's the interesting thing, that 5 years will pass anyway. So some people, when they think of taking a journey of 5 years to change their lives forever, they give up. Yes. And yet the 5 years have to pass anyway. What skill do you need, Vivian? What do you want to be? Do you want to be a business owner? Begin to put in that time and that work. Beyond, it will be difficult in the beginning, but do it alongside your job. Take some extra hours, learn about what you want to do. Begin to take some risk, calculate risk. Come against fear. I can guarantee you, if you set a goal that's realistic, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you will, I tell you, you will change your life forever. My background is IT. Where I am now, Flutterwave, it's a fintech, we're in financial technologies. I realized, about a couple of years, 3 years ago, that, I'm in technology, I was at that time doing cybersecurity, but I realized that, the way the world is going, payments will become a key part of the world that we live in. And so, 4 years ago, I began on a journey to immerse myself in finances. What does it mean for a transaction to be successful? What does it mean to connect technology and finance? What does it mean today, to be a leader in that space? What have people done outside of Africa? Outside of Uganda? What is happening there? How do I be in the spaces where those people are, decision makers? And that journey landed me in China at Alibaba. Again, I applied for a scholarship. Went for that 3-week training with Jack Ma. End up in the same space with the CEO of Flutterwave. And I can tell you that those years of learning, have ended up putting me in the place where I am today. Today, very few, young, technology specialists are in a place where I am, my position. But again, many people just see the end result. No one sees the hours I spend in the night. My wife would know. Spend reading up, spend immersing myself, getting the education, spend on calls with people who have gone before me. But is it worth it today? Yes. Am I just getting started? Yes. Is it possible for any young man? Yes. Any young woman? Yes. So Vivian, it's good that you're cheering, because now you have the sense of what is in you. Take that time, make a roadmap, and begin to implement it. Slowly, it's cumulative. It's like compound interest. Before you know it, if you give yourself a time of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, in the 3rd year, as you quit your job, it will be like you just began. Wow. Yeah.
I told you, and of course, I have another question here coming up. Edio Killer, thank you very much. I'm in the IT world. I enjoyed the interview with Adrian Kamoga and Elijah Chitaka. Man, Neil is breaking it down. I want to know. He said he left his job and he was able to speak to his line manager. How about you have a line manager who doesn't give you space to talk to them and does not want to hear from you, and every time you try to engage them, they think you want to take their position? How do I deal with that? How were you able to deal with that, Neil? Because right now, I'm in that place where my manager just simply sees me as a threat. Of course, I have some strength he doesn't have.
Yes. yes.
So change management has become tough for many people.
That's right. One of the things that human beings, have downplayed a lot, is influencing people. Is knowing how to deal with people. That's a key strength, and that's an area of that you must take as self. Because the person who masters self and then masters people,
Yeah.
is going to thrive.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a saying in the marketplace that your net worth
is your network is your network.
Exactly,
yes,
right.
Yes.
But how does your network become your net worth? Is you being able to deal with those people.
Yeah.
Now, I've told several people, who I've served with, and I've learned from my experience that we will always serve with, for, with difficult people.
Yeah.
With and for. Now you have to then learn how to address that. In all the difficulties of your line manager, there are those moments, there are those times, there are those seasons. And it's just about having that wisdom, observing him and seeing the patterns. When can I go to him? And again, granted, the people who are impossible to talk to eventually, and that becomes a second side, right? What you're trying to avoid is that you have anything to do with that. So take time and learn how to influence people. There's a nice book by Dale Carnegie, how to make friends and influence people. That just deals with all sorts of dynamics of all sorts of people, And so take that time, observe him, look at his patterns. If you ask for, outrightly ask. Sometimes we just want to throw in points, but ask him and say, look, I want us to go for tea. I have some ideas I want to share with you. And in those ideas, begin with some compliments. Say, look, I appreciate you for all the things you've taught me. And this is exactly what I did. I said, look, we need to just have some time. Go for lunch. Where are you going to be? I can come to your house. And I said, look, you're teaching me so many amazing things, right? And here are my dreams, right? And I want you to help me, because where I am right now, I can't achieve those things, but you have the power. So that's what I'm thinking. These are my ideas. How can we implement these together? How can I come alongside you? How can I serve you today? And I've found that as even a leader, the people who have come asking me, how can I serve you, Neil? They have always had my ear. What can I do for you, Eddie? You can never say, I don't want to get out of my face. What can I do for you? And as you win him over, he's then able to ask those questions. Now, at some point, you'll find that in the structure, he's also, has another leader, right? But at least if you have that buy-in from him, you can then begin to have those questions. And if you reach a point where you can't get that breakthrough, you can't, there's that barrier, and if your company doesn't allow you to go, beyond him, because for example, like where I work today, we're allowed to, if you can't get to your line manager, you can go to the manager of his manager. But if you can't have that structure, that's also a sign that you're in a toxic environment. And many times, if you're in that kind of environment, the best thing is to move away in faith.
And find something that is better.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, guys. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Neil and I are going to dive deep into e-commerce and how he ended up at Flutterwave. I think he's talked a little bit about it, but also answering some of your questions about change management and how do you manage change from one place to the next. And then we've got to talk about the leadership transformation in the e-commerce space in Uganda. How is it going? 6 questions for him to take, and for you who is looking forward to be in the e-commerce space to understand a thing or two. We'll be right back after this break. This is the CEO Bench.
What does it mean to be a community artist? What does it mean to to work within a community whereby you are all in the same boat, and maybe what did they say? You're in the same storm but in different boats. So I think here for me, if you are working for a community, there are certain things that you have to do for the sake of the community, and where you're not expecting to earn from. And if you're working for yourself, it doesn't mean that if you're working for yourself, you don't work for the community, or when you're working for the community, you don't work for yourself. So I think there is a need for a differentiation here in terms of like, what do I do for my community and what do I do for myself? Because at the end of the day, you need to survive. You need revenue. You need to pay your bills or support your mom as well with your siblings. So I think
you are doing that because you want to earn.
Exactly.
So that you can improve onto your life, so that you can, like you said.
So for me, I think the advice would be like, what is the relationship between your community work and the work and your business? If you think your community work is your business, then you have to have a model that is going to work to help you to earn from that community work. But then it ceases to be community and it becomes your business. You get what I mean? So when we work for our communities in the arts community, we work for them. We actually invest in them, you know, and then for us to survive as individuals, we have to find other alternative sources of revenue. And that's where I think Abdul has to think around and say, okay, my graffiti, my community education, my art, my area is where I feed my community with my skill and time and investment. But for me as a person, I need to find my own business revenue.
So in other words, Faisal, what you're saying is that what we're seeing are being put on the screen. The art public art. So for example, Abdul, what Faisal is saying that you can sell that art piece. So that should be in somebody's office. That should be in my office. That should be in Faisal's office. That should be in my sitting room. It reminds me that this work is painted by a community, by Abdul in this community, and I have it in my home. Can we hear some more from Jaja? Of course, Jaja is going to play for us that song, Kitenge. You've heard it, the sound, beautiful, and we're going to dive into how Kitenge is going to make it to the world stage as planned by Latif Shah.
naddala bali erudde eri mu North London kyembakutira kiri kimu butekubagiza wadde embeera za korona bangi zatutagula kakati tuve mu mayumba kitengi pateyi n'ensonze bumale ate nga tetusaanidde ddala kugisuwa mwani yabagamba okwambala engoye z'emivumba tujja kwambala bitengi byokka Designer Latifu Uganda omurasita owakabye yatunga mu nnyonyi Maliki Jeni ne Hawa abo basibi banviri alo tujja kuba nabo Anifa wa makeup Mariamu yedikoleta konne popini ebyokulya bingi nnyo ebyekifiriko Madamu Sara Shoshi ebitaddemu umukono Olivia Katharini Nalima Maka manyinga ulira Kulono twambala ebitengi byokka Kulono twambala bitengi byokka
An army of sheep led by a lion will beat an army of lions led by a sheep. That's a fake. Yeah. So let's be very honest about this thing and really understand that you need to understand where you lie and where you fall. So it's very important for us to understand that leadership has to be definitive. You can't be laissez-faire. It has to be definitive. You have to be strong. Just like a lion. You know, when a lion meets an elephant or a buffalo or whatever, The buffalo and all these animals run away. And yet, by the way, they are stronger than the lion. They are heavier than the lion. They are more intelligent than the lion. They are taller than the lion. They run away. The lion, because of its attitude, it sees lunch. That is a leader.
Mr. Tonatra, thank you very much for coming to the CEO Bench. And I want to ask you, so if you were elected the President of the Republic of Uganda today, what would be your first State of Nation address? Now, as you look into the camera and close the show.
I think my first State of the Nation address would first of all to... I think I'll just close it down.
Irene, being the very first person in Uganda, earlier on when we were talking to you, you became the first employee of Diwala in Uganda. I mean, what does that make you feel like being the first leader of a new innovation happening in Uganda? What experience has it given you so far?
It's a very humbling experience. And I always thank the team at Diwala for giving me the opportunity, because I can tell you when they met me, it was about 3 years ago, but you know, just chatting about, you know, what technology is in Uganda, how it can be applied to the education sector. It wasn't really, I could say, an interview. It was more me trying to give people some data and some information. And my CEO tells me that from that point, she felt like, you know, I could be part of that team. And I can tell you, I had zero knowledge about what blockchain technology is. And
yet here you are now talking like,
zero technology. And you know, now getting into Diwala and understanding what they do and understanding why they do it, which is very important. You know, it is important to know the reason behind your why. Like, why are you doing something? And you know, understanding it and understanding its impact and understanding what blockchain technology can do, how it can improve our lives. It's really been a great journey learning from them. It's first of all a humbling experience that I'm part of that team. It's a humbling experience that I'm given the opportunity to learn. Very rarely do people take a chance on you. And yes, I have skills, but I believe I'm continuously growing. I am still being beaten here and there. And it's humbling, and I'm excited to be part of that team. I'm excited to introduce the technology to all the people I know, my networks. And all I can say is that a lot is coming.
It is the CEO Bench, live on House of Talent Television. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Go there and be part of the Ugandans, people in the diaspora. Over 1.8 million people we talk to every single day. They are happy people. Over 15,000 people out there we talk to every single day. Be part of that family growing big and better. Today on the program, we have Neil Simsango, who is the regional lead for Flutterwave Inc. in East Africa. Flutterwave Inc. is a fintech company taking East Africa by storm, making sure that If you have a product you're selling, you can integrate and receive payment from China without you having to go to China when you don't have a bank account. That's the simple one. Neil, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Somebody was asking me about it yesterday when I posted about you. And so I got a lot of people, usually we encourage people to send messages. And so they're saying, so you guys are talking about, e-commerce. We haven't yet reached there.
Yeah.
And these are young guys who are just, I said, no, we already reached there a long time ago. It's just probably you don't know what e-commerce is. And of course, it boiled down to the effect of COVID-19 on people.
Right.
A lot of us don't know we're already there, and somehow we're getting there by force, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And some of these things we need to be able to take advantage to learn, one or two.
Yeah.
So the CEO bench often brings CEOs like you, people who are in position of leadership or climbing to the top. If they're at the top and they're coming down, what lessons can we learn from them?
Yeah.
If they're going to the top and they've reached a certain degree, what lesson can we learn from them? So you receive over 56 votes from different people who nominated you. Right. And normally, when you're nominated, we reach out to a person who is nominated and brought. You're on the list. I think you are with Pastor Moses Mukisa. There's another person from, I think it's the founder of Basel Dental, Godfrey Bachanengaya, and a few other guys, Valo Kecho from Vivo. So there's been a shipload of votes going on from people.
Right. And
we decided that we'll reach out and bring people one by one. But there was a question perhaps about you. Can we bring Mr. Sango to share the story of how he ended up at Flutterwave?
Yeah.
I think you mentioned a little bit about it when you went for apprenticeship in China.
Yeah.
Neil, talking of this, and given the background we've given you, the journey to Flutterwave. I mean, it's an international company.
Yep.
We've known, started originally from Nigeria, but started from the US, Nigerian, and is now going across Africa. Would you share that journey with us? When you finally met with the CEO of Flutterwave in China at the Jack Ma Fellowship, how were you able to tell him that I am here, if you need somebody, I'm good to go? How were you able to be picked from there? Because I'm sure there are many people there who could have fitted the bill. But it was you being picked. Yeah. Let's talk about the journey.
No, I think it's again, right? What aspirations, personal aspirations, right? The thing which stood out for me in that fellowship was, in our conversation with Jack Ma, he mentioned something which was really pertinent. And what he said was that, the way that we make the change, and change is a big part also of what Alibaba has done, is we have to realize, what is the biggest problem we're solving. In fact, what he said was that if there are no problems, there exists no opportunity. And so he said, look, you people, you're 18 in this room. What is the biggest problem today in Africa? I'm not from Africa. You people know it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put you in groups, and I'm going to have you discuss what do you think the biggest problems are in Africa? And I sat there and I, just thinking about my own company, which I'd founded, which still exists today, buy2africa.com, was, it's an e-commerce company, logistics company, cross-border logistics. And I thought to myself, look, if I can't get paid, I have no business. Yeah. And clearly to all of us in that room, the biggest problem was payments. And so, for us, it was a way of saying, look, how can we then become ambassadors to solve the biggest problems in order? And so right there, it was, first of all, people must have something they're trading in, and that's the commerce side. Maybe goods, services, etc. Second point, people must then be able to get paid. So today, Eddie, with however amazing HTV is, and this is your product, this is your specialty, if you can't get value for it, it's, there's no value.
You're definitely going to close down.
Yes. The second thing is then, if you can get paid, then the third thing becomes, how do you then deliver that value? Which is where now logistics was. And I realized that I am at the third tier in hierarchy of problems. And so, for me, it was saying, look, I'm available, right, to be part of solving this problem across the continent. And we vowed in that room to be available to each other to solve those problems. And so, it's not a question of me being part of Flutterwave or being part of an organization. It's a question of how do we come together as Africans to know that, okay, we know this problem exists. How do we solve these problems together to make the change, to be the change, to lead the change we want to see on this continent? So for me, I can't be anywhere, but today I'm at Flutterwave because I believe in the value of the problem. And soon enough, as an entrepreneur, as a person solving problems, when we handle this problem, we move to the next problem and solve it. And so for me, it's a big question of what's the biggest problem today in Africa, in Uganda, at my home, where I serve, at HTV. How can I then be valuable to solve that problem and then go to fix the next thing?
Wow. That thank you very much, Neil, for that. Let's talk about the question that has been lingering in our minds for some time, e-commerce. When we talk about e-commerce, it's a confused question, people don't understand it. But I want to start from my first question being, what are the features of e-commerce that you can share with us from the beginning? Or what is e-commerce? The question should be, I think, actually, what is e-commerce first? Because a lot of us out there don't know what e-commerce is, but we have a product to sell. We don't know how, during COVID-19 lockdown in 2020, the president, when addressing the nation, particularly in Uganda, and most presidents in Africa, kept saying, use the online services. We're not yet there. And people were wondering, but online services, what is the president talking about? How do I get my goods from Okila, who needs tomatoes, somewhere across 20 kilometers away from where I am in the lockdown when I was not supposed to? How do I move? I mean, then how do I pay for these goods and services to get there? We didn't quite understand, but somehow e-commerce began to boom. And borders jumped into it. Everyone was into it. But what is really e-commerce?
So e-commerce is not a very difficult concept. Now, the concept of e-commerce, the E stands for electronic, and commerce is trade as we know it. So commerce is basically the art of trading goods and services, buying and selling, and the E becomes the electronic part. Electronic, why? Because the day and age we live in now, it's the age, the internet age. And just to give a bit of a preamble to the internet, right? It's basically just devices, your phone, my phone, the TV, the laptop, communicating to each other. What this has created is it has made the world what we call a global village. Today, we're being watched live in the United States. We're being watched live in the UK, Dubai, in China, also in Uganda. Which means that if you remove the electronic side of the equation, we are not able to reach those people. What has happened today is that because of the electronic side, because of the internet, we're able to reach out to people who are beyond our own borders, our own reach. That is what e-commerce is. Today as a seller, today as a manufacturer, today as a person giving a service, how do you reach people on their devices across the world and sell to them in the comfort of their homes, in the comfort of their office? And so it's basically taking trading, buying and selling online. And so it has three major pillars. First is, how do you then showcase the good? And today social media has taken the world by storm. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, these have millions, hundreds of millions of users. But then how do you then create also a platform for yourself where you can now showcase? It's like an online shop. It's basically a shop that exists on your device. And then beyond showing them, how do they then get to pay for that good or that service? So, the aspect of payments, how does money move? Today, we are also blessed, and this is, again, architected by maybe God himself, that today in Uganda, in East Africa, we are the #1 region that is using mobile payments in the world. A couple of weeks ago, I was having a discussion with a professor from Harvard, and they have begun a course unit where they're studying the use of mobile money in East Africa at Harvard University. What this means is that East Africa is at the forefront of mobile payments. So then when you come from the showcasing aspect to the payments aspect, it then becomes, how do I then get the good or the service I've paid for? That's where the logistics comes in. And as you can see, the whole world now is alert to the fact that we need to allow delivery, logistics to happen. Even in the lockdown, dead mid of the lockdown, even Uganda, which has been on lockdown for a very long time, allowed delivery people to move. And so that is the three main pillars of e-commerce, but it's basically trading, buying and selling on online platforms and then accessible to the whole world.
Wow. Thanks a lot, Neil, for that. But question number 2 would be the difference between the e-commerce and traditional commerce. Yes, we've also been juggling and boxing around the corners and trying to understand the two. Some says my money will disappear. Some people have sent money and money didn't get there. Goods have been received. We've had David Okwi from Oduka.com stores, and he says in the early stages you would send goods and some people don't pay.
Right.
And then you don't know how to get them.
How to get them back.
Or there are these buffets, as we call it in Uganda, who order for goods. If you're watching the show from US or from Canada, wherever you are, it's a person who is a conman.
Conman.
Yes, who get the goods from here and that's not their address.
Yeah.
And then they don't send them. And it says, okay, I'm going to send the money. They don't send the money.
Right.
But the question here is that, what is the difference between the traditional e-commerce and the traditional commerce?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
so that we can understand and sort of like understand how to mitigate the risk that comes with it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing which is, I mean, and I look at it as if they're not different. They complement each other.
Yeah.
So, commerce, traditional commerce and e-commerce, the only difference is that the e-commerce is completely online. It's away from the physical store.
Yeah.
So basically what happens is that everything would happen in the shop.
Yeah.
It's now happening away from the physical store.
Yeah.
It's remotely happening. And for me, I like that we're discussing e-commerce together with change management.
Yes.
Because, this is an aspect that we must understand. How do we then transform?
Yes.
We're not stopping one or the other.
Yes.
It's transformation.
Yeah.
It's managing, your customers. It's managing your own self as a business owner to transform your experience into an online experience.
Yes.
Yeah, and what I've observed now is that, there must be a process. You can't just throw it on people. That's why there's so much stigma, because we're like, oh my God, now I'm going to just push my money. And we have invested a lot, even at Flutterwave and all the places where I've been able to be a part of is in training. Just training the people, just giving them education. That money actually is not flying around. It's not an evil spirit. I've had people wondering, how does money fly from one phone to another? How am I sure that you deliver?
Christianity will always relate it to witchcraft and
bind you break down, you bring down. Yeah, but how do I make sure that as I'm teaching my customers to embrace e-commerce, I'm even willing to send them products to have a look and touch and feel and then choose and then send back what they don't want. It's part of the change management in e-commerce.
Wow. Neil, thank you very much for that. And the takeaway from it is e-commerce is purely remotely being done.
Yeah.
I'm in my sitting room wearing my shorts,
right?
Walking in my sandals,
right?
But I have Okila Health and Fitness, a workout that somebody needs to be, to use somewhere in Kenya.
Exactly.
And I can deliver that from the comfort of my sitting room.
Yes.
And they will be able to pay you Flutterwave system,
and receive their value.
And receive their value the other side.
Yes.
That's a good thing. And the traditional commerce we're talking about is walking to a shop.
Right.
In other words, riding a bicycle 40 kilometers to a shop to
enter Eddie's gym.
Yes, to enter Eddie's gym or Eddie's gym and then come back in lockdown. So that's the difference between the two. For some of you guys who have been asking what's the difference is between the e-commerce and the traditional commerce that Of course, when you walk to a supermarket, you still use e-commerce. By you swiping your card, money is not exchanged hands as real cash money, but it's still going through the same process. All right, Neil, what are the advantages of having e-commerce to organization? I mean, Flutterwave, you've been signing as many people as possible. I walked to a friend of mine opened a new shop in Kampala.
Yeah.
And selling original watches in Kampala, Malungu.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And he invited me.
At the mall.
Yes,
Arena
Mall in Kampala City. And he invited me to go and check it out. And so I walked into this, watch shop, and up there's Flutterwave as a payment system platform we use for receiving payment.
Right.
I mean, what is the advantage of having this kind of system to businesses?
Yeah, I think to a business, right, it's I could spend the whole day. But the first thing is for me is as a business owner is just to have that comfort. One. Number one is security. The cost of handling cash is high and it's risky. Second thing is you give an array of range of possibilities to the paying customer. So as opposed to receiving only cash in one currency, online you're able to receive be it mobile money, be it Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, different Safaricom, M-Pesa in your shop. What that does, it opens for you a possibility of new customers. The third thing I can say for me really about that e-commerce does for a business is it unlocks the border for purchase. We have a story at Flutterwave, and this is the thing. One of the things I've mentioned about Flutterwave is we have a merchant who in the lockdown her business closed completely. And so what happened was that she used to sell arts and crafts, some sandals, etc. Lockdown happened. She couldn't go to a shop. She couldn't sell to anyone. She had a store, a physical store. Yeah. Because of our online stores platform, because it is online, because it reaches the whole world. Yeah. She opened a store again, following my advice, and she put her products on the store, and she began selling sandals to Ghana, to Nigeria, to West African markets. Yes. What this did create was a new opportunity of business. Yeah. This lady went from selling 20, 30 pairs of sandals in a week to selling hundreds of sandals in the lockdown. Able to get paid in Nigerian Naira, Ghana cedis. Money gets converted to her money in mobile money on her phone. Yeah. Opened up markets.
This is using Flutterwave system.
Yes. Yeah. Opened up now opportunity in Kenya. She's begun selling now a little bit in Zambia. But before going online, this was impossible. How will she market her product over there? How will she get money from Zambian kwacha to then come and go to a forex bureau, change it to Uganda shillings? This was impossible before e-commerce. And so as a business owner, you have to think of these things. What does you going online today on Facebook, there are millions of customers, millions of potential buyers. You can reach, by just, putting your advert out there, you can reach over 100,000 Ugandans. Yeah. What would it take for 100,000 Ugandans to walk into your store today?
First of all, you need to jump into the car and, or a motorcycle to ride to go and find the store.
Yes.
The traffic, we're talking about that. You were delayed in traffic just to get here.
Just
imagine if you are going to get
something. So imagine 100,000 Ugandans in a day accessing your product. If even just 5% of them are buying, or even just considering to buy, that's 5,000 people. Wow. If 10% of those 5,000 are buying, that's 500 sales. Yeah. For you to sell to 500 actual customers, you have to have 100,000 people come through your store. These metrics, are really challenging, and that's why online presents a new arena. And I'm thinking about only Uganda. Yeah. If you look at the fact that Facebook is in every single country in the world, then the possibilities are endless, like we say at Flutterwave.
Wow. Thank you very much, Neil. We're just reading one more thing, a couple of questions here before we've gotten to the evening of our show. Yeah. And I want to encourage you guys to share your questions far and wide. We're definitely going to sample some of them. I've seen a lot of questions coming from the US and some of them coming from Nigeria. You've got some people in Nigeria, got some people in Kenya, and I've seen some people sending messages from as far as Canada. These are Ugandans who always stay up late to actually watch the show. But first, before we get into their comments, Neil, I want to ask you a question. Would you explain the advantages of e-commerce to viewers?
Right. So I've been explaining the merchant side. Now the customer side, it's comfort. The customer is king, like we've known in many businesses. Yes. The key thing that the customer gets from e-commerce is, one, is the comfort. Yeah. Two is the fact that if the partners that are involved today, we're trying to do whatever is possible to secure the customer. Yeah. The customer is primary focus for us. Yeah. And so security, of course, of transactions. You're able to claim back. You're able to say, I didn't get value, and get back your money. Yeah. You're able to, do other things. Yes. So for example, today, for me to buy this shirt, for example, which, had to have me go to a physical store. Yeah. Now, I can be here on this show and order for a shirt and to be delivered here. I can save time. But also beyond that is then saying, how do I then have a level of accountability? I think for me, as a consumer now, the biggest advantage I have for e-commerce is that because I transact online, there's a history, an actual history. So several times I'll go to
your account is much
several times I'll go to my statement, mobile money, bank, and I look at, oh my God, this is where the money went. But as a guy spending physical cash, we don't throw away the receipt and what, and that element of accountability, you can't tell. And that's among the many other advantages of e-commerce to our user.
Very well, thank you. What are the shortcomings of e-commerce, if any at all? Like any other thing, there's good and bad, but what are the shortcomings of e-commerce?
Right. So e-commerce has a bit of shortcomings, especially in our market with our background. The actual human interaction. I've found it again difficult to convince a customer. Even that avenue of convincing is not there. So e-commerce, works when you have some level of trust already from the customer.
Yes.
Because then, traditionally when a guy walked into Eddie's gym, you say, no, I can see your size, Neil. Yes. I've worked with people like you, etc. Yes. If he clicks a link and Eddie is not there, Eddie, the salesman, as we know him, it's up to his intuition and your graphic design to convince him. So that can be a shortcoming. Of course, there are ways to mitigate that, but that's one shortcoming. Okay. Second shortcoming would be, because it depends on various aspects in the ecosystem, right? The delivery, the payment. Sometimes because of that interconnectivity, there may be a delay in one place or another, and it breaks down the trust of the people in e-commerce.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We've come to that moment where we now read your questions to Neil. I want to start from guys on YouTube, and I see here Faz Zinderson says, good presentation, Neil. Thank you very much for representing. And I want to go straight to, the messenger always have as many people as possible. 250 plus messages. We can't read all of them, but I want to sample some of them. Eddie Okila, thank you very much for bringing Neil Sango to the program. First of all, I went to school with him, and I like the fact that he's very passionate about what he's doing. I have a question. I live and work in Europe now. In Europe, everything is about e-commerce. Everything, all payments online is credit card. Uganda and Africa, like many other countries in Africa, don't respect credit card. How are they managing, the challenges that comes with e-commerce payments through online, where people are not trustworthy like it is in Europe?
Right. Yes. That's a good question. Yes. And again, it comes down to Africans building African products. Yes. Now that question cannot be asked by you, Eddie, because of course, you would know that in Uganda, we have, mobile money is very prevalent. Yes. And so the thing which I've also embraced and learned to, carry forward with all the people who I work with is how do we build products for this market? Yes. And so, cards are not prevalent here. There will be, 1%, 2%, but the most transactions are going to be on mobile money platforms. And so this is a way. Mobile money platforms is really popular in this part of the world. Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. So it's number one in payments, and people actually utilize it a lot for payments. Yeah, so, but as well, alternative methods like cash on delivery, which, as you begin to go into e-commerce, it would be nice for you to start with that channel as you encourage customers to then, move into mobile money, card, etc. What that does is that, you have to sell the advantages to the customer. Okay. Not just saying, you use this, You're saying, why are we using this? What's the vision of us using this? What does it mean for you also in securing payments? And then we've seen also the rise of wallets, so apps, platforms that have store of value where you can keep some money in a wallet and then you can easily pay online. For services. Yes. Well, thank you very much. Dennis, all the way in Australia. Dennis, first of all, thank you very much for being a very loyal person to follow HTV. He's one of those people. Best in Australia says, Eddie Okila, thank you very much for bringing Mr. Sango to the program. I have a question to Mr. Sango. Many businesses in Uganda are not very formal, and they are not quite very organized with bookkeeping and stuff like that. Sometimes people prefer cash money to money coming from coming through e-commerce. And take, for example, I recently had to send money to my brother when the fuel prices in Uganda hiked. All petrol stations in Uganda, and to me it was shocking and very disturbing that Vivo Energy, Shell, Uganda refused to take mobile money and cards and said they wanted cash money. So that defeated the whole point of e-commerce. I mean, such challenges that comes like this to Mr. Sango, how are they able to deal with it? Because that poses a threat to their business. I think what he's saying, I went to a petrol station at night, gas station, to put fuel in a car, and I was told I can't use mobile money, and I can't use my card, my debit card, and so I was stuck. And I asked the guy, I said, how is this even possible? This is what's supposed to be. So if a small thing like that can take us back, what would be your advice on how we can deal with it? I think, it's part of its responsibility, right? And it comes down to change management and leadership. The same exact story happened for Visa and MasterCard. Years ago, when trying to convince people that store of value can be on a card. I think we have to know exactly where we are at this point in time. We're the trailblazers. We are leading the journey. So the expectation we put on ourselves must be realistic. Mobile money in itself had a hard time convincing us, the users, that value could be on your phone and be transferred. I think we're not where we want to be, but we're light years where we've come from. And so the question becomes, and how do we go on that journey? The reason which, Vivo would give for not accepting mobile money, these are real reasons. And so, for myself as a leader in this space is, how do I go to solve their challenge? Because, money must be able to hit instantly a position. Today, if I give you your cash, Eddie, you're sure that your cash is in hand, right? It's just between you and your bicep to defend it. If I give you, if I said I'll send you money over an online payment system, it takes some time to reflect onto your account. Now, if you don't know me, if you know me, Neil, it's easy to accept. If you don't know me, it's hard for you to accept and say, but how is this money going to move through these systems? Where is it actually? Is it in the clouds? Where is it? So we must work together as players in the ecosystem to say, okay, how do we make this faster? How do we make this real time, like mobile money? Today, you can agree with me that many people have begun accepting mobile money because it's instantly coming to your phone. If we can do that for organizations now, the value is going to become eminent. And as we do that and we train them, we integrate it into their systems, make it a part of their process. I can tell you, even just the lockdown has caused an acceleration of like 5 years. Before, no one would even ever consider accepting online payments. Today, you have seen even companies like Cafe Javas, for example, who have a big online part of their business that grew and became active in the lockdown. And so I know that it's not where I want it to be. So if you've traveled around the world, but we are making light years in terms of advancement to get to where we want to be.
Well, thank you very much, Neil, for taking time to come and share this with us today on the CEO Bench. The last question here, what is next? This question we often ask leaders. What is next? What is the next step for a CEO or a leader in management level of leadership? If they are leaving or returning or staying, what would you say is the staying power at Flutterwave for you? Because you are there, you are still staying. You're not yet coming down to somewhere else, you're staying. What is the staying power for you there that we can learn from? And what are those 3 things that you can leave with our viewers today? Somebody who wants to pick something that they can use tomorrow to better themselves.
I think, for me, of course, I'm blessed to find an organization like Flutterwave where, there's a lot of value for the individual, right? In terms of what you're becoming, what else can you become? What are the possibilities? What do you need to do to even get there? So, the dream is big, the passion is massive. We have to go, to all countries in this continent, and change, be the drivers of that change in payments. And so the dream is still big, the vision is big, and I'm aligned to that vision, so I'm still there. The 3 things I can say, to someone who's watching me, as a person who, either is a leader or you're on that journey of going into, self, just understanding self, or changing into another role, which I've had to do in the recent weeks, is, the first thing is know yourself. Know what you're about, have a vision, know where you want to go and what it takes to go there, right? That's the first thing. That understanding will give you a sense of direction. It will be like a compass to show you, the vision is like a compass. It just shows you, where do I need to be going? What am I thinking about? Where do I spend my time? Second thing is, then after that, find a community, a space. And there are many amazing spaces online, even physically in the country, where you have people who are mentoring you, who have had similar changes, who have had similar challenges. Find that space and be in that space, be active in that space. Most times people wait, as people who are growing in their career journey, wait for their managers to call them. I can tell you that, being the guardian of your destiny, you have to approach the people who you want to impact you. Another third thing I can leave, with everyone watching here, is refuse to be afraid. Do it in fear. If you're stuck in a job, you don't want to be in that job, what do you want to do? Who can get you there? Begin to take those steps. The fear will be there, but suppress it. Believe that all things are possible. I have seen it, I have lived it, I am living it. All things are possible to he or she who believes. And I can tell you that, you know, the limit is not existent if you just believe.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much, Neil, first of all, for coming to the program today. We want to, you know, take this moment to thank you for accepting the nomination for our viewers to come to the program today and for you to be able to share your heart with us. It has come to that moment when we have to say goodbye, and every good thing comes to an end. And, we want to wish you well. We're looking forward to catching up with you when you are now taking over, you know, East and Central Africa as the next lead for Flutterwave. And we'll definitely be able to bring you in and to all the people. We want to spread love to you. No, it has to be the other hand.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so and then you spread love to other people. Yes.
All right.
And thank you very much for being a part of the CEO Bench Growing Bigger and Better. To all of you guys in the US, in Canada, in Sweden, and all across the world, we thank you. And from back here in Uganda, where we actually based, we want to say thank you to the crew. Thank you everybody who has made this possible. Until next week, stay hooked and stay blessed. The CEO Bench has come to an end. Edio Killer, Niels Msango, signing out.
We can choose to teach what we teach differently. And for me, that's what I decided to do, even in the system that there were. When I was in Makere, my classes, I was very intentional on how I taught my classes. Yeah. I opted to be a facilitator as opposed to a lecturer. Yeah. 2, I allowed co-learning. We learn together. Yeah. I am not the epitome of knowledge. Yeah. If you have learned something and you think it's beneficial, let's share it. That's the second thing, that come to the realization that knowledge is not housed in one brain. Yeah. Knowledge is a combination. God is gracious. Yeah. Each one of us has a portion of knowledge about some of the things. When you trigger people to go and search, they will go. When you trigger people to sit back and depend on you, they will sit back. I'll say, trigger people to go and search. Wow. You will teach the same things, but the outcomes will be different. Yeah. My final shot to those of us that are very passionate about education and want to change, when it is so painful with what you're doing, you'll do what I'm doing at Refactory. You'll choose to go against status quo. And I hope history will judge you fairly. When that time comes, I can say, yeah, I've trained about 300 people at Refactory. We've trained about, it's not only me, we've trained about 300 people at Refactory. We have about an average of about 70 to 83% placement. I can say I'm happy. I'm a very happy person because I know for a fact that the current placement rate for fresh university graduates is below 10%. So for me to be at 83%, yeah, I feel I can walk on the clouds, but I won't. There's still a lot of work to be done. Yeah. And so each one of us has an individual responsibility for those of us that are in the education space. Yeah. And hopefully, each one of us can then create that summative change that we need to see. Wow. Thank you.
What can the men do, okay, to promote women's sports, or basketball for that matter?
Yes, so today morning, someone told me, he made research, actually my brother, that these days the NBA actually facilitates the WNBA games. to see that they're also somewhere. How about the NBL men starts doing something, not totally like investing in and all that, but it can be with the support system. It can be one very good thing, seeing that creating more opportunities for these ladies, putting up different games like, so as like women can be like seen or showing that these guys also like care. It can start with support, and then with time they can also like recommend whoever facilitates them to like partially have his thoughts somewhere on the women's team, so that like they can all go about like together, in solidarity. I think that can work. I don't know, I don't think it's something big. It can start with support and then financially with time.
Now I'm going to talk to my people.
Yes.
Because I like what, as we are saying, vive la France, vive la francophonie. So, le leadership, c'est quoi? Le leadership, ce n'est pas le fait d'intimider les gens ou bien de dominer les gens, non. Le leadership, c'est le fait d'aider les gens à suivre le bon chemin. Parce qu'il y a des gens qui sont là, ils ne savent même pas par quel chemin emprunter. Il y a des gens qui ont même étudié, mais ils ne savent pas quel business ils doivent faire. Maintenant, l'idée, quand tu rencontres une personne pareille, tu vas l'orienter. Non, tu peux faire mieux que ce que tu fais. Non, la peur que tu as là ne va pas te tuer. Tu peux aller au-delà de la peur. L'idée, c'est comme j'avais donné l'exemple, j'avais donné l'exemple ici en français, en anglais, pardon. La vidéo que j'avais vue à propos des chiens, il y avait un groupe de chiens au niveau du Canada et il n'y avait pas de l'eau. Pourquoi? Parce qu'il y avait la neige, il n'y avait pas la place pour que tout le monde puisse boire de l'eau. Mais il y avait seulement une petite place pour le boss que je vais appeler. Et il ne voulait pas que les autres puissent venir boire de l'eau, comme il était boss, il intimidait les gens. Mais il y avait un petit garçon, un petit chien qui était là à côté. Il a eu l'idée de briser la glace, là où il y avait pas, parce que l'eau était en dessous et il n'y avait pas moyen de boire, mais le petit chien a brisé et tout le monde a vu ce qu'il faisait. Ils sont venus, ils ont commencé à briser et tous ont profité avec l'eau potable. Et le boss était laissé comme un vaurien. Personne ne le faisait confiance parce qu'il n'était pas là pour les aider. Il était là pour le faire peur, les intimider. Mais l'idée, c'est quelqu'un qui est là pour aider quelqu'un à avancer jusqu'à son destin, à sa vision. Parce que nous avons tous nos visions, mais c'est la peur des fois qui nous arrête. Merci mon ami.
You have to know each equipment. You have to know the brew ratio. Actually, the brew ratio is
very important.
The most important. Brew ratio now most people may not understand. It is the ratio of water. The coffee powder to water, and the yield. Water in this article will bring us into the yield. If I put 10 grams of coffee into my portafilter, how much of it am I? Exactly. So if you don't master the brew ratio, everything is going to turn out a mess. You understand? Even if you know that knowledge and you don't master the brew ratio.
And one thing I would like to allude to or tell the other youth out there is we have to start creating our own solutions for our own problems. Otherwise, no one else is going to come from, Europe, America, or wherever to try and fix our own issues. So I would like to urge other youth, the other creatives out there, hit the ground running, go in there, try and solve the problem that, you know, your neighbor has, the problem that your friends have.
Yeah.
And by creating those solutions, you know, you can easily, you know, become the next big company of tomorrow, creating, wow, you know, bigger solutions, you know, nationwide and on a continent level.